Airship.
Hello, Airship 27 podcast number 54. Hard to believe, but this is your chief engineer Rob Davis alongside the captain Ron Fortier. Say hi, Ron.
Hi. Hey. Hi, loyal airman. And hey, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, we're going to have to record these outtakes of what you and I do before we start a show. some of the flubs and et cetera, whatever. We're just teasing about the fact that this is episode 54 and we're still bumbling our way along. All right.
Yeah. You'd think we'd have this down by now, but
so sophisticated is our show, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that's going to change with the show, which all of you who probably stuck in there all 53 episodes, and man, I give you more credit than I can imagine. All right,
gluttons for punishment.
Did that? You will never know. But anyways, we're not going to be counting down the old sponsors things anymore because our conversation with Sparky last month after we recorded episode 53 was it is no longer necessary. So basically, it's hey, say hi to your listeners and jump into the show, which is what we could
always talk about our legal team, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, but we'll Sorry, that's a little tribute to the car guys from NPR.
Right. Yeah, which Rob and I are fans of and had been for a long time. But hey, talking about bad humor. Guess whose turn is to start the show? Right, that was a segue. Did you get that segue? That was perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
not bad.
Segue.
Okay, go for it, Ron.
All right, I've got a little one this time, Rob, and you know what? Giving credit where credit is due. I read this on Facebook last week, and it just nailed me. All right. Okay, so Billy Goat walks around the barn and sees the other Billy Goat busy eating something. So he walks over and looks and goes, "What's that you're eating?" The other Billy Goat stops and goes, "Oh, it's a movie screen reel." "Is it any good?" "It's all right, but the book was better."
I should have seen that coming. That's good. I like that.
We'll share it with the missus later after the show.
All
right, and we have a full hour to wait for Rob's gem, which will be coming at us and waiting with bated breath. All right. Hey, look, one of the things obviously that this podcast theme is going to be is the Pikeville Con Report. We want to take some time to thank everyone involved with the Pikeville Comics and Toy Convention, especially Kent Leedy, all right, who is the main man who put it on and invited us to be guests this year, as well as artist Michael Belcher and his wife Carrie, their son Aiden. Mike was the guy who first brought this to my attention, Rob, and wanted me to be there as a guest. And then I turned around and saw that opportunity for us to be there as Airship 27, put a bug in Mike's ear, as you know, and away we went. They kind enough to invite both of us. So,
yes.
Yeah. So, basically this is going to be rather informal. I've set down some notes in the agenda about things that happened that weekend in Pikeville. I think we need to start with that long 7-hour drive. I flew to St. Louis. Rob picked me up around 8:00 in the morning on a Thursday morning, and we headed east. Yeah.
A map of Kentucky, one side to the other.
We did. We crossed the bloody state of Kentucky.
We went the full length of Kentucky.
It's a great state. It is a beautiful, great state.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, the interstate petered out before we got there. We took most of the way. We went 64, which starts just west of St. Louis, just west and just a little north of St. Louis, and you follow it, and it goes all the way to the middle of Kentucky, and then I think it turns south. And we continued on east, and just some beautiful country. And it got hillier and hillier. And finally, when we got to Pikeville, we were in the mountain. They weren't rocky size mountains, but they
No.
were mountains. Pikeville is in a it's near Pikes. You know what a pike is? A pike is a mountain. So
it's really part of the Appalachia range, and I mean, and Rob's not kidding. I mean, it's amazing how the terrain changes midway through the state, because midway through, before you park companies with 87, it's pretty much regular terrain. By that I mean there are some woods and forests, but there's also some flatland, there's some farmland and whatever. But once you get to that midway point and you start climbing, then you're in the mountains. And
it's there's there every morning it was foggy. The misty mountains. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, it
was gorgeous every morning.
Right, and Rob and I are questioning this because as we're getting further and further into the mountain ranges and seeing less and less of people and civilization and no gas stations, all right, we're like, okay, so there's a convention happening someplace in this wilderness.
How is this happening? But as this says here, Pikesville sits in a valley surrounded by mountains. It's the home of the Pikeville University, home of Bears, and the show was held at the sports stadium, which we completely drove by on Friday afternoon when my iPhone's GPS kept telling us to go further down the street to the courthouse. So we drove right by the stadium, and Ron even went, "Isn't that where it is?" and pointed to it. And I went, "Well, I would think, but maybe it's, showing us a back way in or something." We get down where it's telling us to go, and there's nothing there. The courthouse. Where was the courthouse? So it sent us on a wild goose chase through the tiny one-way streets of Pikeville. Finally, I shut the darn thing off, and we had been given a map the night before. We ran into, who did we run into? Was it Mike, or was it Mike Belcher we ran into, or who?
Mike. It
was
and
Mike.
Kent, and Kent had the map. Kent had the map that he'd drawn up. What and it's a good point to to bring up here. It's basically how we've all become trained in the last few years to rely on technology. All right. Yep. So we all have these GPS, and isn't this great? We can't get lost anymore, right? Now, the map that Ken had given us, right, basically said from the hotel where they put us up, which was a really, really nice thing called Landmark, right in the center of town. And so we get up the next morning and we're looking at the hand-drawn map that Kent had done, and it said, "You are 1 mile away from the stadium." Okay. So we get in the car and Rob turns on the GPS and punches in stadium, and away we go down this little road up to a light. We're just about a mile now. It says take a left. So we take a left. And as we take a left, as Rob just indicated, there's this big old stadium to the right. And I'm going, that might be it. But the GPS is saying, no, keep going. Keep
going to turn right.
So we get into the center of the hamlet, and it's one-way streets, narrow, confined. At one point, we ended up in somebody's backyard, past their garage, in a road like that.
Yeah, there's this much room on either side of the car.
It was we're wrong. This is totally wrong.
I turned it off. I went, no, this is all wrong. So we finally pulled over and we looked at the map and we went, oh, okay. So we drove back, and right where Ron said, "Isn't that it?" And I went, yeah, that's it. We finally figured out how to get around on the backside where we could unload and all that. But
and it was a really nice setup.
It was
the whole point with the university being in this small little hamlet, smack dab in the middle of this valley, is because of the university. It is part of the university system,
right? And
so that's where they hold their sporting events. And much to our surprise, Rob and I walk in to set up, and we've got the whole floor. Imagine the basketball floor for a pro team that can hold like 30,000 people in the stands, right?
Well, I don't think it's quite that much, but it's pretty good size.
Well, the point being is that our tables were so well laid out, and so much space between them. Honestly, this is the kind of con that I absolutely love, because during the next 2 days of the show, it opened up Friday night for VIP people, and then Saturday was the main day of the show. All during the entire day Saturday, it never ever once felt overwhelming, to the point where both Rob and I were going, is this show a success? I mean, you obviously start to wonder, never mind that people were coming to our table and talking to us and buying our books, and we're having a great time and whatever.
Yeah.
Rob, after the show was over, it was a couple days later, they posted their attendance at 4,000 people.
I would never have guessed.
See?
I would have guessed about half that.
They sold 4,000 tickets.
Wow.
That's how many people went through that building Saturday, and it never
Friday night and Saturday. We had 4 hours on Friday, 4 to 8.
Right.
4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So, we had quite a few people that night. We made some good sales.
Yes, we
on
did.
Friday night.
Yes, we did.
But even at that, 4,000, I would never have guessed that.
Of course not.
But the aisles were really wide.
That's why I'm telling you, that's how deceptive that can be. All right. I mean, literally that stadium, 4,000 people going through there on 4 hours Friday night, 8 hours on Saturday, only tells me, Rob, that if the show continues, it has more than enough room to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean,
it could triple. It could triple and be fine.
Kent was more than overwhelmed with how well it went in those numbers, because this is year number 3, and supposedly it is growing from year to year. So,
and being in the middle, essentially in the middle of nowhere, it really is. There's no interstate serves this area.
Right.
There's no really big city. Pikeville is it. Pikeville's the big city there, but it's got the university, and and we drew people from all over. From the folks drove in from Florida. I'm trying to think where else. Pennsylvania, I think some folks drove in from. Yep. Just all over the place. So Ohio, I know for sure we had a few from Ohio as well, but just from all over the place. Yep. And 4,000. That's surprisingly.
That surprised the heck out of me, Rob. It caught me off guard. Okay, so here's the thing. We talked about the people that came to the show from all the surrounding states, the nearby states, who showed up. So again, that shows a lot of good promotion on their part. And obviously some of these people had been to the first and second year of the show. The thing that Rob and I were thrilled about, and again, part of the fun of this weekend, were the other guests that were invited. Now, I mean, I put down a little list here. I've already mentioned Mike Belcher, all right, who is a local artist, all right. But then again, Mike Barron, who was one of my neighbors here in Fort Collins, flew out, and Mike was there. Although I don't think Mike was well aware of the journey he was taking.
Yeah, I think he was a little surprised about it, because he flew into Louisville. And Louisville's is what, 3-4 hours away yet?
3.5 hours still.
Yeah, it's still. Yeah, Louisville's almost in the middle of the state. Well, and Pikeville is over almost to Wisconsin.
Oh. Well,
it's clear across the state.
And obviously, what annoyed Mike and does me when I fly, Rob, is I always want to get a direct.
I feel so bad for him having to do.
Right, and there was no way Mike could get a direct to Louisville. So he literally got up like at 3 o'clock in the morning here in Colorado to make it down to Denver. Caught an 5 o'clock flight out of Denver. Then had to go to Minneapolis. Switch planes in Minneapolis. Make it to St. Louis, only to be told, "Hey, buddy, you get another 3.5 hour drive. Let's go."
Louisville. Yeah. Oh man,
it was taxing. It was taxing. Okay, so
I drove 2 hours before I even picked you up, and then it was another almost 7
hours on the road.
Almost 7 hours by the time we got to Pikeville. Rob was
tired,
tired puppy.
Oh yeah. Trust me, loyal airman. When Rob and I hit the sack on the first night at a con, we sleep like babies. Okay, we sleep like babies.
Oh man.
So again, Mike Barron, Bill Nichols was there.
Right.
We hadn't seen Bill since we were in, was it Louisville? Or where was it? Or we went to Kentucky a couple of years ago for Comic-Con that Chuck
Yeah, I'm thinking
Chuck Moore put on.
I'm thinking Louisville, but
yeah, it was Louisville, and we ran into Grant Fowler and the gang there. Okay,
right.
and Bill showed up. Bill was there with his son, and he came over to visit us and talk to us for a little while one day. So that was the last time we'd seen Bill in the flesh. He ended up being our con neighbor to the right. And then we had, let's see, who else? Oh, well, you just mentioned the troop that drove up from Florida. Roland Mann.
Yeah.
Barry Gregory.
Right.
You and I had never met before. And for all you loyal airmen, if the name sounds at all familiar, Barry is the genius behind Kablam Printing. And man, they print
comics.
Thousands of comics, and they've done a lot of Redbud Studio comics, a lot of the stuff that Rob and I produced over the last 10 years. And Barry's a great guy. And they brought along another friend, an artist named Jeff Whitting, who is a riot. He's a lot of fun to be with. They were a great bunch. And we all went out to dinner the first night. Rob and I went out to Texas Longhorn the first night. Was it the second night that we went out with them? And then the final night, everybody went out to this Mexican restaurant and just had a great time. Just had an awful time. And that was half the fun of the show, was all the guests. And we didn't even get to meet all of them. Rags Morales was there and never got to talk to him at all. He's a former DC illustrator who worked on Superman for quite a while.
He was probably swamped over where
I'm sure
his table.
Right. And then we had
So were we.
They had the wrestling champion, Sergeant Slaughter was there.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah.
And they had a voice actor who does Squidward on SpongeBob SquarePants, and he had a long line in front of his table. All the time he was there. I want to forget him.
Larry Hama.
Yeah, of course, Larry Hama, G.I. Joe himself. Okay, again, kept very busy. And finally, somebody that Rob and I had never met before, and really, when you talk about legends in comic books, Jim Shooter was there, and I really didn't think we were going to get a chance to hook up with him and meet with him. Again, remember we talked about how wide the stadium was and how people were all stretched out across it. But mid-afternoon Saturday, Mike Belcher comes running over and says, "Hey, you want to do a panel with Jim Shooter?" Yeah, okay, all right, sure. Really me? Okay. And so they set up this panel upstairs in one of the many, many rooms up in the stadium. And so for the first time in my life, I get to meet Jim Shooter. And I think 6 people came up to listen to us gab. And it was basically the two of us sitting there talking about our own beginnings in comics, how we got started and whatever. And trust me, I deferred as much as I could to let him talk because I wanted to hear what he had to say. He worked with some of the greats coming up. And the guy started when he was 14 years old. Think about that. He started writing professionally for DC at the age of 14. And believe me, it was a fascinating time. He's a very congenial person, very polite, did not want to hog the conversation, kept turning around and giving me opportunities to get my few little experience and words in there. And then when we were done, he happened to look over at the hat I had, which had the Airship 27 logo on it.
Right.
And politely said, "So what's Airship 27? And I said, well, that's the new Pulp venture that my partner, Rob Davis, and I run. I says, we reprint, classic Pulp novels and anthologies, new ones based on those characters. And his eyes widened up and he went, "Now that's fascinating." He says, "Come on, let's go downstairs together." So, he joined me to the elevator, came down. He says, "I'd like to see your table and see what you guys have." So, hey, brought him over to our 2 tables where we laid out, as Rob had done, as he always does, a really nice spread of all our books. We had our comics, we had banners. Rob was doing, had his prints out there as well, his new prints. And so Jim Shooter came over and started looking at some of the stuff that we've done. And he was clearly impressed. He really thought that we had something good going.
I kind of expected him to be kind of egotistical, having done all he's done and starting as young as he did. But he was just a down to earth guy. I should have remembered. We're all just folks. We're all big fans of comics, and it's something we love doing. And yeah, he just was a very down to earth kind of guy. So
Yep.
it surprised me a little bit. It shouldn't have, but it did.
Yep.
So
And so
yeah.
and he was kind enough to let me get a picture with him, snap the picture with him. So hopefully I'm going to add that with the show notes. I've got a half a dozen pictures. You might want to talk about what happened after lunch on Saturday and the Golden Girls of Flatwoods. Which is what I tag him. But I'll let you tell that story.
You want me? Okay, let me see where we are here. Okay. It was at this show that we debuted the limited collector's edition of Mark Justice's The Dead Sheriff, #3, Holster Full of Death. It was written by Fred Adams Jr. We brought 15 copies with us, and I signed all of them because I illustrated it, and I actually did the limited edition cover that was on it as well.
Hey, Rob, while we're talking, because I picked up.
Oh, you're going to show? You got one there?
I picked up number 2 is mine.
Mine are still in the box. Mine are still in the box. But by the way, we have copies of those available while we're talking about it and showing it. There's a link on our website, airship27hangar.com, right there with the regular edition that's listed on our website. There's also a link where you can order it through and you can pay for it through PayPal, and then it will alert me, and then I will send you a copy of it. And the cost includes the shipping. I ship it by priority mail. But anyway, commercial out of the way. But we brought 15 numbered copies with us. I signed them all. On Saturday afternoon, Mark Justice's wife, Norma Kay, and 3 of her girlfriends girlfriends showed up, and we gave her number 1. Ron labeled them the Golden Girls of Flatwoods, Kentucky, and it was appropriate. These gals were having them. I think they hadn't they had a couple of glasses of wine before they came?
Yes, they did.
I think they had a couple of glasses of wine before they came by, but they were so much fun. They were having a blast.
Yeah,
and we thank them sincerely for driving up from Flatwoods to support us. And Norma Kay gave us each a really big hug, and we gave her one back.
Right. Look, the thing.
She's sweet.
She tears up. She tears up all the time. About what we've been able to do at Airship 27 with Mark's, creation with this series, and this is the 3rd book in that series now. And I wanted to also tip our Pulp fedora to one of the girls who was Jonda Dowdy. And Jonda was the one who came over to the table. They played sneaky on us. She came over to the table first. Yeah. The other girls held back, right? And then she goes, I think I want that book. And she pointed to the Dead Sheriff book that we had on the table. And as if I wouldn't recognize you, Jonda, but I did. All right. We're friends on Facebook. All right. God bless. She supports what we do wholeheartedly. She shares it all the time, Rob. She's a wonderful lady. Cool. And so when I recognized her, then I started looking. There was Norma Kay sneaking around the side of the table. And,
I almost didn't recognize Norma Kay. I almost didn't recognize her because the last time we saw her, she had dark hair. Yes. And here she had lightened it, had some highlights in it, and it looked really good. But I went, well, who's that? Oh, that's Norma Kay. Yeah, but she looked great. They all did. Like I said, but they were having a good time.
Yeah, so eventually after all the pictures were taken with Norma Kay and me and Rob, I realized, okay, it's probably the first time any of these gals have ever been to a comic convention ever. So, we basically said, why don't you come back here with us? We got somebody else to grab a camera, and we got several pictures of me and Rob and these 4 absolutely charming Southern ladies. Okay, so hey, girls out there, thanks so much for coming to the show and for making it that much more fun for me and Rob. Totally. Okay, so now, again, I want to finish up what Rob said. I don't want to let that go. We did come back with some copies of that. Now, after we got back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the official release of that book. But Rob still has several of those that are collector's edition with his cover on them. All right. And he just told you how to get a hold of him, either through our webpage, our own webpage. I mean, you can even go to Airship 27 on Facebook and tell Rob, hey, I'd like to get one of those.
Yeah.
And he'll help you out.
Email us. I mean, I think our email links are on the website.
Yeah.
So if you want to email me and let me know that you want one, we can take care of it that way. I tried to make it easy by putting a link with a PayPal button, so you can pay for it with PayPal, and then it will alert me, and I'll package it up and send it off to you.
Yep.
I bought some envelopes or something. Oh, that's right. I'm sending it priority mail. I got some envelopes to send that. I figured to do it that way because they handle things better than if you just put it in media mail.
Yeah,
it could get tossed around.
Always.
So these are pretty sturdy little envelopes that they go in, and it should come to you in pretty good shape. I'll also put some stiffener in there so they won't get bent around either. But they're all signed, so.
Yeah, there you go. And again, really, okay, only 15. We're not doing any more with that cover ever. Anybody who wants a copy of the book, and we hope that's a lot of you out there, just head off to Amazon, and you'll find it there with the Chris Routing cover. All right. So again, this was done just for Norma Kay, a special tribute to her. And I've got some more news about Dead Sheriff, but we're going to hold that off into the show. Okay.
All right.
And that's it. Anything else you want to mention about Pikeville at all, Rob?
No, except for the hospitality and
yes,
the the Kentucky accent.
Oh, I love it. I think it's
especially the women, the females, the girls.
Y'all. Oh man.
But the hospitality is just the greatest.
It's genuine.
They talk about Southern hospitality.
It's genuine.
We experienced it in Pikeville, Kentucky.
Full tilt. Yeah. Everybody got out of their way, rolled out the red carpet. And I'm glad you said that, because there was a bit I didn't want to forget. I really didn't want to forget.
Well, I'm glad I said that then.
Yeah, I am too, because you're going to get it too. Okay, it'll cue you. And again, we had to mention the accent, because I love accents. I traveled around the country, and I love other people's accents. And the Kentucky accent is so genuine and so warm, all right? And it makes you feel at home. It makes you feel welcome immediately, okay? So that's what us guys from the Midwest got while we were there. But at one point, early Saturday morning, when they had just opened the show, people started coming in. And of course, like any other con, they had cosplayers. And they had some good ones. They had some really good ones. There's a guy playing, Mr. Freeze from Batman.
Gosh, what a great costume.
Handmade costume. The thing was crazy. I've got a picture of it. We'll let Brand have it. Okay. Yeah. It's phenomenal.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing. And of course, he did win the cosplaying contest. Okay. And now, again, maybe the con's been open maybe about a little hour, an hour and a half. And in walk a couple of people, and this couple, a young woman and her boyfriend. The boyfriend is dressed up like Deadpool, whereas she's dressed up like a female version of Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes.
So
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So she walks over to our table, and towards the left side of the table where Rob is sitting. So Rob says hi to her and starts to say who we are. Going to introduce us. And she goes in that charming little accent, which I am not going to try to repeat. She goes, "Oh, I know who you are." She goes, "I watch your podcast." Both of us were like, what?
Okay.
She goes, "You guys are a lot of fun. I watch your podcast." Hey, look, and dear lady, if you are watching this one, if you are now, thank you so much for coming to the table, to meeting us. They stopped by several times. They bought several of our books. All right. They were so much fun. They were a great couple. And just knowing that we have friends in Kentucky, Rob, was such a great feeling. It really was. Okay. So we tip our Pulp fedora to the folks of Pikeville and the surrounding area. All right. You were exceptional. You are the nicest people Rob and I met in ages. Thank you so much for inviting us to your show.
And that's my wife calling.
You might want to take that. I mean,
Teresa? I'm doing the podcast right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bye.
Talk to you later.
bye, Teresa. It's like live television.
Don't cut that out. Don't cut that. Leave that in.
No, that stays in. That's
Marky,
it's like
leave
live
that in.
television. Oh God. All right. Okay. All right. So hey, again, all right. Let's try to get some semblance of a show in here this episode. All right. And I'll take the first one. Released since our last show.
Okay.
As hoped, upon our return from Pikeville, artist Chris Roding turned in his official cover for Mark Justice's The Dead Sheriff, #3, Holster Full of Death by Fred Adams Jr. This is the third entry in this weird Western series about a half-breed Indian named Sam who, through black magic, controls a corpse and convinces people that the corpse has returned as a zombie bounty hunter. Created by the late Mark Justice, the character is quickly becoming highly popular in the new pulp community. No, Rob may have a few, and we've talked about this, so I'm not going to repeat the whole idea. But I'm going to let you read that little thing that says special note.
Okay, special note. Dead Sheriff #3 became Airship 27 Productions' 200th book. Not bad for two guys sharing a hobby over the past 11 years. And wonderfully poetic that it should be this particular book, which, lost my spot. This particular book, which debuts in Mark's home state of Kentucky. Okay, loyal airmen, that's 200 great pulp titles under our belts. Now, on to 300.
Amen. All right. 200 titles. Holy smokes.
And that first table at Windy City, we had five books. And now we fill the table. We fill the table.
I know. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going and going.
We're having too much fun. We're just having too much fun.
Yeah, that's it. Rob and I have these conversations when we do get together. Not so much online here or whatever, because most of the times we're working. Rob has all his projects, I have mine. And when we get together, the few times we'll Skype each other if something's important that we do have to communicate. But it's generally about Airship 27 titles and production, whatever. The only chance we really get to sit down and talk face to face is the conventions when we travel together.
Right.
And that's a real opportunity for us to expand on those conversations. And one of the conversations that we have on a semi-regular basis is, how long are we going to keep doing this? And Rob's answer is always the same. And I love it. And I applaud it and I concur. As long as we're having fun. The second this stops being fun, then we'll close the doors, we'll close the shop, we'll put out the lights, and that'll be it.
There are moments every once in a while. We have Ron has a moment, I have a moment where it isn't fun, but those are very fleeting, thankfully. But we are still having a lot of fun. Otherwise, we wouldn't have driven 9 hours to Pikeville, Kentucky, clear across the state of Kentucky, in order to meet some of our fans and sell some of our books. And we don't do that because we're masochists. We do it because we have fun doing it.
Amen. And that's it. It is.
We're not doing it to hurt ourselves. We're doing it to have fun.
It is still fun, and it's exciting. And when serendipity just happens, we're in Kentucky with a book. It happens to be our 200th debut. Okay, written, all right, or inspired and started by a guy who was a Kentuckian. You don't make that stuff up. Okay, you don't make that stuff up. There are karmic forces out there that tell me and Rob, you guys are doing it right. Keep doing it. And that's it. We're going to keep doing it. Hey, look, we don't think we're producing great literature. We think we're producing fun literature. We think we're doing what the old pulps did. All right. We think our books are fun. We think they entertain our readers a great deal. And I know for a fact that we've helped a lot of young writers and artists get a leg up in the industry. We've boosted their own confidence in their own talent and told them that they can do this. And it's somebody once said the next best thing to making your dreams come true in life is helping other people make their dreams come true.
Actually, yeah. I think that's more fun.
It is
helping other folks get their dreams. Because I got very lucky early on when I attempted to be a comic book artist. I got in fairly quickly. I had two bucket list things in life that I wanted to do. One was to become a comic book artist, and number two was to do something with Star Trek. Wow, I got to do both at once. So, so now my goal is to, somebody else out there's got, a bucket list goal they want to get.
Yep.
And I might be able to help them get across that line and maybe make it to it. And that I'm hoping, I think we've done that a few times already.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I'm hoping, if nothing else, bring people to but I've been very lucky, and I know Ron has too. Been very lucky in this this silly comic book career both of us have had.
We're blessed. We're
Very,
blessed
very,
in
very
many ways. All right. So you read that. Let me go with now what's coming next. Okay.
Yeah.
As happens quite often, we've got ourselves another 2-horse race as to which will be our next Airship 27 title release. Behowls the Moon. This is the werewolf at the Irish Easter Rebellion 1918 that we've discussed in the past few episodes. All right. Written by Philip McCormick, Steve Otis turned in a truly stunning cover. And now Rob is working his way through the 9
Slowly.
black and white interior illustrations. Okay, among the 101 other things he currently has on his plate. But let me tell you, Steve Otis's cover is insanely beautiful. Rob did the final design work over it, and it's just sitting in the wings. And so I can guarantee you, when this book gets ready to come out, it's going to make a few ripples. Okay, the cover alone is going to shake some people up as to, wow, what's this all about? Which is what covers should do anyways.
My computer's talking to me. First my wife calls, and now my computer's talking to me.
You have a busy household, Rob. You really have a busy...
Yeah, what can I tell you? It's
all right.
lonely here in the studio, so I make the computer talk to me.
Okay, whereas newly recruited artist Clayton Merwin is plowing through the interior illustrations for writer Brad Siner's novel, The Eye of Dawn, a thriller about the battle between immortals living among us. Thanks to Clayton's signing on, this title has jumped ahead in the queue, which generally happens once we get an art team.
Yeah.
We still don't have a cover for this one as yet, but that will become priority number 1 once Clayton finishes the interior illustrations. So those are 2 books that are pretty much neck and neck, all right, working their way to completion. And it would be a good bet to say one or the other is going to be the next book we put out. And when that does happen, the second will follow suit afterwards.
Yeah,
so.
I've got two of the 9 illustrations done. They're coming slowly because this time of year, my part-time job is driving a bus, and one of those jobs, which usually starts about this time of year, is driving a shuttle on the University of Missouri campus. But also because I also fill in, and a lot of the regular drivers take their vacations in this, me really busy doing that. Plus, I have some family things going on. My son and his new wife are looking for a house. So every time they see one they want to look at, they go, "Hey, you want to come along with us?" And we go, "Well, sure. We want to go look at it." So, but that takes 2 or 3 hours, but we want to see what they're up to. And as I'll just yesterday, I've talked about how my ear got, the eardrum got punctured. It's still not fixed. So that's still an issue. But I went to the dentist about 3 weeks ago, and I had this big cavity in this tooth way back here in the back of my mouth. And the dentist said, "You're going to need a root canal."
Oh.
So yesterday I went in
Oh.
and sat in the chair for 2 hours while they stuck their finger out and sawed and drilled and stuck needles in me. And so, yeah, by the
Dreaded
time
two
I got
words
home,
in
I
the
was
English
exhausted.
language: root
Oh,
canal.
yeah. Well, but it's not as bad as it used to be, from what they tell me. That when they used to do these years ago, they were worried about, once they opened up your tooth and it exposed the nerve, they were cautious about putting any kind of an anesthetic into the anesthetic. Excuse me, I'm mispronouncing words. Uh, they put that in there, and they were afraid that that would actually do damage to the inside of your mouth. They've discovered that's not a problem. So when they start exposing the nerve, they start putting stuff in there now, so it doesn't hurt until they're done and everything wears off.
In the ways off.
Yesterday, I thought somebody was taking a sledgehammer to my to about 11 o'clock this morning while I was driving for the city. Suddenly it quit. So yay! But yeah, but I still got to go in and have the crown put on in a couple of weeks. But
Yeah.
boy, it wasn't the kind of torture it used to be, but it was still pretty bad. So I can't imagine what it used to be like. I mean,
Well,
I guess they
talked
give you.
we talked before the show. I remember too that I had maybe 30 some odd, 40 some odd years
Okay,
ago.
back
Even then,
yeah,
in the old days, okay.
yeah.
And Rob, I swear one time they'd given me Novocaine and everything. They started working on me, and the pain was excruciating. The pain was absolutely excruciating. My mouth's open, right? They're still going away at it, right? Okay,
Yeah.
doctors, a couple nurses. And finally, the only way any of them, realized anything was this tear trickling down the corner of my eye. So, the doctor stops and turns around, it stops everything. And he says, "Are you in pain?" And I went, "Yes." "Why didn't you say anything?" I said, "'Cause I want you to get the bloody thing done and over with. All right." I
Yeah.
said, "Look, I'm not the bravest guy in the world, okay? But it hurt like hell. And once it did, I was like, I'm not saying a word. Finish this thing and let me out of this freaking chair. All right."
Yeah.
No. So they numbed me up with some more Novocaine
Yeah.
and then got it done. But I mean, if torture devices couldn't have been worse than what some root canals are like.
That's if it in war crimes, that would be one of the best tortures, is to start drilling on people's teeth. Oh my Lord, nothing hurts like that.
I know we're talking like this. I know you're not much of a movie guy. Okay. Are you familiar with the film? Have you ever heard of the film called The Marathon Man?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier. All right. I'm gonna set up the scene. I'm gonna set up the scene for you. All right. This takes place in New York years after World War II. All right. And somehow or other, Olivier is a Nazi war criminal who's made it to America and now is living as a dentist. And okay, Dustin Hoffman's brother is an agent of NSA or whatever, discovers this and gets killed by Olivier and his people, other hidden Nazis. They think Hoffman knows where his brother hid his information, so they kidnap him, bring him into the doctor's office.
No.
But you know where this is going? It is one of the most gritting, brutal torture sequences ever done in the film. It's all acting.
I did not see that before yesterday.
Because what Olivier does, he looks at Hoffman, who's strapped to the table now, right? And he's just a college kid. This is an old film. And Olivier's brilliant as being sarcastic. He holds up a piece of clove, right? And he goes, "This little piece of clove," he says, in his little German accent, "has the properties to ooze and soothe the nerve." He says, "Whereas," and he holds up the drill, he says, "this doesn't." So then he asks him, "What'd your brother tell you," or whatever. And I don't know anything. And he hits him with that stupid thing right in the nerve, Rob. He drills him in the nerve, right? Hoffman's screaming and screaming. He pulls it out, takes the clove, sticks it in there. And the minute the clove touches it, the clove oils calm it. This scene goes on for like 5 or 6 minutes in that film, and to this day, I know Dennis hate that film. Okay, that film must have swore off their customers for years to come. All right, yeah, perfect role for a next Nazi criminal.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That. Ooh.
The marathon man. All right. Okay. Enough. We've just been sidetracked.
I know about Little Horror. There's a torturous dentist in Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh yeah. With
right?
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson's the
Yeah,
patient.
Jack who enjoys being tortured.
He's a masochist. He wants
he loves
to
being
keep
tortured.
Yeah, more and more. All right.
Okay,
Enough
well,
with this.
We went far afield here.
Okay, you pick up breaking news.
All right, okay, breaking news. This just arrived over the Hangar 27 radio as Ron was writing the agenda for this episode. Writer Michael Housel will be writing the next Mark Justice's Dead Sheriff novel. Yep, there will be a number 4, Loyal Airmen. No set date when this will happen, as Michael is now working feverishly on a new Purple Scar short. That anthology now in the world. We're thrilled that Mark Justice's legacy will continue to entertain all our pulp readers here at Airship 27 Productions. I just learned that just a little bit ago when I got the agenda. Yeah. That's what I learned. Right. So this just happened. Yeah. So that's cool. Michael is an excellent writer. So
totally. So yeah, we've done 2 of his books already, and now, like I said, he's doing Purple Scar for us. Very, very enthusiastic about pulp fiction. And what happened was he wrote a review of Holster Full of Debt for us on his blog site and posted it. So he sent me the link, Rob, and I went and I read the review. And as I'm reading the review, I realized Michael was explaining the series. Mark, and how Mark passed away after writing the first one, how he's read them all.
Okay.
Oh, okay. And the review was so enthusiastic. So I went, okay. Well, I shared it. Then I went back. Yeah, right. I'm not one to miss an opportunity. So I went back and I says, you wouldn't consider writing one, would you, Michael? Well, I caught him a little off guard, and so it's by surprise. And later in the afternoon, he has a day job. And later in the afternoon, when he got home and he saw my email, he got back to me immediately. All right. And was like, are you kidding? Really? And so we talked, we exchanged some emails then. We talked a little bit. We had the conversation. And I said, look, you already know the characters in the series. I got that from the review. And he goes, oh, yeah, I've read them all. I loved them. And he said, I haven't done a Western. But at the same time, he goes, I like supernatural stuff. And this being weird Western is his milieu. All right. So I said, well, look, I said, how we're going to proceed with this is I told him, I said, when you're ready. And again, like I said, there's no deadline or dateline, but I did want to announce it in the podcast today. And eventually we'll let Norm McKay know this is going to happen. All right. The series continues. The kicker is when Michael is ready, what he's going to do is write a detailed outline for the book and send that to me. And I'll go through it, make sure the continuity with the first 3 is intact, that he's doing the characters correct. Any suggestions or whatever I have editorial-wise, I'll put to him, things I think need to be tweaked or changed. And I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of those because, like you said, he's an excellent writer. He's very creative. Yeah. And then I'll give him the green light. So with fingers crossed, maybe sometimes this time next year, we could actually be promoting a 4th Dead Sheriff, and I am so freaking happy about that.
Yeah, that's great. That's fun.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, and then as we mentioned last month, Sinbad: The New Adventures, Volume 6, with Yehus Rodriguez wrapping up the interiors and Adam Shaw working on the cover, and that one is pretty much a certainty. That will be out in a few months. And then we've got Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, Volume 14, Bass Reeves, Frontier Lawman, Volume 4, Brother Bones, number 5, Tales of Cape Noir. And believe me, lots and lots of other projects in the wings that are in semi-states of development, of being put together, even as we talk. We're still looking at doing an anthology of Professor George Challenger
Yes.
that Gordon Demowski hit us up with. And Gordon also wrote the Bible for it and turned in his story. Just so you know, one of our finest writer, Barbara Moran, just hit me up a couple days ago for the Bible. She wants to write a story for the Challenger Chronicles. So that's
that
another
would be
project.
fun.
Yes. So again,
she writes. She does. Okay. So anything else? We didn't get any questions this time. Okay.
Nope, not yet. Not this time. The only question we got at all was on my Facebook page, because I used that same illustration or photograph of the young lady on the radio set that we have nicknamed Radio Rita. And somebody posted and asked me if that was, and again, Renee Russo, and it says, "Is that the actress Renee Russo?" And so my answer was very simply, I said, well, you know what? I can see the resemblance. I can. But, I just scoffed that up off the internet one day, years, last year or whatever. And I've been using it ever since. And other people have made that comparison. But I really can't say yes or no.
I don't think it is. There was a famous supermodel who did a lot of ads like that. And I think that's who it is. I can't remember her name, but I don't believe it's Renee Rousseau.
Okay.
She's a lookalike. She's
Yeah.
got a similar look. And again, I may be wrong. It may be her, but
that's what I mean. I
don't think it is.
It's
I
a
don't
50.
think it is.
It's a 50-50 shot. So okay.
But yeah, I don't think it is. If anybody out there can confirm or negate that, let us know. If Lord knows I don't have time to rush
no
to run that down.
Right.
So,
and if you're going to play detective, understand, all right, the image is basically of a young lady advertising shortwave radio sets. So like Rob said, the odds are very good. It could have been that model he's talking about, because that would have been an advertising campaign.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Whereas
was it like for Radio Shack or something like that?
I don't know. It's just, you see the radio equipment very polished.
I think from the looks of it,
holding the mic, and could be.
Yeah. But that's that's at least a place where if somebody wants to try and to detect
Search it out.
That might be a good place for them to start. As it looks like an old Radio Shack advertisement, but I couldn't tell you for sure. But anyway, it's probably from like a Handyman magazine or something like that. But anyway,
okay. So now, anything you got going on my? Oh no, there is.
You have a question? Okay.
Not a question. I have something special that I wanted to bring up. All right, which is really cool. And then we'll get into what both of us are doing. All right, over the next couple of weeks and the projects that we're working on separately. But when we were at the show, I mentioned the fact that I was wearing this hat. Right? See, Airship 27 hat. Now, Rob and I had some of these done at Cafe Press. I had this one done at Vistaprint. All right, and most of these are what they are. They're iron-ons. All right, just get the image and
or
iron on.
Silk screen. Iron on silk screen. Yeah.
Right. It's very cheap. The kicker is, though, Rob and I have been talking, and I've always wanted to get one embroidered. So prior to going to Pulpville, I found a company in Queensboro, North Carolina, who had a really decent price for single hats, cheaper than anything I've seen online, Rob. And most of these places, they start at like $25 a hat. All right.
Right.
So they were having some kind of a campaign, first time campaign, and you can get the hat, one hat, mailing and shipping for like $7. So I said to myself,
that's outrageously cheap.
Can they do it?
That's amazing. Wow.
Can they do it? They did it.
They can. Yeah, that's nice.
It is beautiful. It is.
That's as nice as the patches that I had made years ago. Very similar.
So anyway, I mentioned this on Facebook, Rob. And of course, the minute it was on Facebook, hey, you selling those? So basically, what I did was over this past week, I got the word. I said, look, I said, if I can get 10 people who will guarantee me they would buy a hat, all right, I'll go back to the company and I'll put an offer to them. I'll negotiate. Because remember, that was a one-time deal for that $8 thing, all right? I says, I'll come up with a price, and if they're willing to go for it, we'll get the hats made up. So sure enough, within 2 days, I had 10 people, Rob.
Yeah.
A couple of our friends here on Airship 27, a couple of my local friends here in Fort Collins, I had 10 names. And then I went to 12. I ended up with 12 names.
Wow.
So that being the case, I wrote a personal letter to the owner of the company and basically gave him a figure that I would be willing to spend for the hats, but not a penny more. There's no way I was going to charge my friends $20, $25 for a hat. I wouldn't do it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if he couldn't make that, right, whatever, Rob, he came back and said yes. Look,
all you got to do is ask. I mean,
the point is,
the most he's going to say is no.
No,
So,
and here's the kicker, and this is what I was hoping for. All right, they've already made the computer patent for my hat, for the one. So, all right, they'd lose money if they didn't make any more of those. He's got the thing in his computer. So so you know what I did? I said, I want 15. I'm going to, when the hats come in, and they should be in within the next couple of days, my plan is to notify the 12, all right, tell them to send me a check, whatever, money order, whatever they want to do, and I will mail them all their hats, and I'm left with 3 that I'm going to take to my next convention and see what happens. So, hey, loyal immigrant, you're out there listening to this show and you're watching it. If this appeals to you, give me a holler, okay? There's no guarantees I can keep this company doing this for us or whatever. But again, if I can give them substantial size orders, it could be worthwhile that they keep servicing us.
Well, the old silk screening place that I used to work for also did embroidery work, and their minimum was 12. So you hit their minimum.
I hit the magic button without knowing. Yep.
I have no idea what it costs there. It's right around what you paid for those. And probably more, but I'd have to check that. But yeah, but the biggest cost, and we looked at this before. You didn't mention this. I had looked online to maybe do this earlier.
Right.
When you got that one silk screened at Vistaprint, that was the best price we could find. But most of the expense is the initial design that they have to make. It's a special program that they have to go through to make this thing, and it takes hours.
Yep.
To create this design, and that's where the expense comes in. That's the initial expense. So you're absolutely right. The guy's already done that part. That's the most expensive part. They can get the hats cheap from China or the Philippines or somewhere like that. They get the hats for next to nothing.
Yeah. So to prove your point, right? I gave them the order. 2 days later, I get an email saying they're being shipped. Would have taken them probably a couple hours. The guy standing there on the machine once they put the program in again and just make the hats. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, right? And usually like the one we had, it had a line of 6 or 12 sewing machine lined up, so you could put 12 hats up. 6 or it was probably 6. It was probably 6. So they ran it through twice.
Right.
They put 6 hats up there. The machine would do its work. They'd pull those off, put the next ones on, and it'd do 6 more. So they could do like 6 at a time. So yeah, it probably didn't take more than an hour.
Yep. So there you go. So
but the putting together that design probably took at least several hours. I mean, if they got somebody who's really good at it and a simple program, they probably assembled it pretty quickly. But if that's usually the expensive part is the setup.
Yep.
So yeah. So, but yeah, you got a heck of a deal.
I did. Hell, yeah. Okay, yeah. So that was my special thing I wanted to bring across. Your
special thing. Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. Let's see. Sherlock Holmes. We covered everything. So I guess we're down to the end of the hour, and Rob's going to come up with a
Here we go.
Well, as usual, I tried to be topical. which is, I mentioned that I went to the dentist, so I looked online for a good dentist joke. Well, there are several really, really good ones. There's one that's a pun, but that's too short. I needed a longer one. So I found this one. So here we go. A dinner speaker was in such a hurry to get to the hotel that when he arrived and sat down at the head table, he suddenly realized that he had forgotten to get his false teeth. Turning to the man next to him, he said, "I forgot my teeth." The man said, "No problem." He reached into his pocket. "Try these," he said. The speaker tried them. "Too loose," he said. The man then said, "I have another pair. Try these." The speaker tried them and responded, "Too tight." The man was not taken aback at all. He then said, "I have one more pair. Try these." The speaker said, "They fit perfectly." With that, he ate his meal and gave his address. After the dinner meeting was over, the speaker went over to thank the man who had helped him. "I want to thank you for coming to my aid. Where is your office? I've been looking for a good dentist." The man replied, "I'm not a dentist. I'm the local undertaker."
Oh God! Oh,
That guy spit those teeth out real quick.
good, Bob. Going. That, yeah, that's a great punchline. That's a great punchline. Oh God! Yeah. And here we are. All right. Hey,
We wasted another hour of everyone's day.
that you're never ever going to get back. All right. Hey, again though, thank you for everybody out there who listens in all the time. As we discovered in Pikeville and that charming young lady, we have listeners from all over, and it's amazing what this technology does, how this thing gets us out there to people and whatever. And we truly, truly appreciate your spending a little time with us. We hope you find it enjoyable. We hope you find it sometimes informative as well as some of the things we discuss and hash out, because we really have a ball. Like the the publishing company doing these podcasts is fun for us as well too. So it gets me and Rob together once a month, and we can crack up a little bit and bring you in, our family of loyal airmen. That's what you are to us. Okay, so that's it. Rob, go ahead and sign it off, and we'll put this one in the logbook.
It'll be in the can. This is your chief engineer, Rob Davis, signing off.
And as ever, Captain Ron says, "Down ship."
This has been a Gonzo Goose production.